to see how this digital transformation, you know, how it works and how it helped transform this particular organization. So this case study really is about a company we called Winjets Inc. Um, and how they had their digital transformation for it was a manufacturing company, focusing on the problems they faced and how digital transformation provided solutions. So I'm just going to run through what these issues were. Now, before digital transformation, it was a Widgets Inc. So I'm trying to give this so you can get a very good hands-on on so when you live here, you have no doubt that this is what digital transformation is and where you fit into this change. Now, the company was a mid-sized manufacturing company with a long history of producing specialized industrial components, founded in the 1970s. It had built a reputation for quality products, but by the late 2000 2010s, the company was showing significant signs of strains. Very, very. Now, what were the problems really? First was the order management. So basically, um, for order management, you could see that customer orders came in via phone, fax, emails. They were still using manual way of receiving orders, and these were manually transcribed into spreadsheets, and paper-based forms. So it was one of the issues they had, which you can tag under inefficient operations and manual processes. For inventory management, inventory was tracked using spreadsheets, and of course, they do physical counts, and they put those counts, in spreadsheets and all that. It was also an issue they had in terms of inefficient operation. Production planning, production schedules were created manually, often based on, somebody's feeling or, data that was not substantiated. And of course, we had the issue of quality control, where you do quality control based on paper information or based on, data that was entered manually in logs that are not, frequently being updated. It was also an issue that this company faced. Another issue they faced was lack of data and insight. Of course, there were data everywhere, so there was no centralized information center where you could, get that single source of truth for information. Because of that, there are a lot of poor decisions because things are done manually, you can't make real-time decision. Before you get the information to make decision, probably it would have been event would have overtaken that decision. So we also had limited customer understanding, because they were not while we just value their customers, they lacked the comprehensive view of customer interactions, purchase history, and all those insights into customer behavior. Another problem they were facing was customer dissatisfaction. Of course, slow response time was one of the issues because of the manual processes, inconsistent deliveries, missing out delivery times, production delays, inventory issues, and all that. Also, one of the issues they were having. And of course, competitors' advantage, newer and more agile competitors, were emerging. Of course, that's the way, people were coming in that would offer faster services, more transparent processes, lower cost because, the technology is there so you can be able to do things with lower cost. And it was also an issue with this company. We also had employee frustration and morale. Now, because repetitive tasks were manual, it was crazy because employees spent, I'd say, significant amount of time, on tedious and repetitive tasks. So it was very difficult for them. It was a frustration for them. Communication breakdown between departments and were common due to absence of integrated system and absence of employees. So whenever an employee leaves, it's difficult to put the information together because while it was probably not documented properly or you could not get access to these files. And of course, limited growth opportunities, right? So focus on manual processes meant less time for innovation and skill development. So this was some of the problems that this company was facing. And you could just imagine some companies we work in have one or two of these problems, or we might have worked previously in places where we could cite some of these issues as an example. So because of the want of time, I wanted us to discuss this and kind of give some solutions to what we think can help this company improve, but we don't have the time. So I'm just going to say share it on the chat. If you're free, you can put some advice there. How do you think we can support widgets, with making sure that they bounce back as much as possible. But because want of time, we're just going to pick those advices. I'm going to share them with bullet points. But why not? In the chat, you can drop what you think will help widgets to bounce back on their feet. Now, first is, we're looking at, so I haven't gone through all these issues and problems. The first thing was to recognize by the management of the company was to recognize the need for change. And the leadership at Widgets Inc. embarked on a comprehensive digital transformation journey spearheaded by a newly appointed chief digital officer. And of course, there's no perfect company, but every imperfection in companies is an opportunity for digital transformation. So their strategy, which was supported by this new officer, was to implement a suite of interconnected digital solution. And we're going to see how that happened. So first was, so key to this transformation or key to this change was the introduction of what we call the ERP system. So of course, they had to bring a system like SAP, Dynamics, Oracle, Workday, and most of these major ERPs. So a robust ERP system was important to make sure that, processes across different business segments or different departments were integrated. Secondly, they introduced the manufacturing execution management system and IoT, that's Internet of Things integration, to manage real production and issues around the production floor. Of course, they had to also implement a customer relationship system, which is called CRM. Then you can use Salesforce, you can use HubSpot. They were implemented really to manage all customer interactions from inception of expressing interest down to managing sales orders and invoices. Then of course they also set up a customer relationship, an e-commerce portal, which basically supported, was a secure online portal for B2B, that business to business order. So support the business, support widgets, and of course other businesses. And this really helped in providing customers with 24/7 self-service capabilities, and of course reduce the burdens on the sales team. So these were some of the key digital transformation solutions that were implemented because of the issue that widgets was actually facing. And of course, if we look at some of the outcomes, and how this impacted the company, the impact of digital transformation on widget was profound and transformative across every facet of the business. First, one of the things that we observed, or that was observed in the company, was improved customer satisfaction and competitive time edge. So we had faster responses now. There were reliable deliveries. Market leadership improved. We had data-driven decision being made because of access and centralized data. Because data is available, it's easy to make actionable insights. We had enhanced customer understanding. And of course, three was empowered employee and positive culture. Because of this change, of course, employees have time to focus on value-added tasks, enhance collaboration across team, and of course, skill and development improved. And the fourth was streamlined and efficient operations. So, implementing some of these solutions led to automated order management where, orders are made based on customer history. We all optimize inventory control where we can track reorder levels and automatically system can generate POs once an inventory gets to, the reorder level point. We had dynamic production planning and of course proactive quality management, which is very, very, very important. And so this was what happened as a result of that change. And in the picture, it can just give you a very good understanding of what these two environment looks like, really, and how digital transformation can change how we work and change Africa and our countries, really. Because if you go to a typical public service, I mean, you can understand what it means to get things done in most government organizations and most parastatals because we still do a lot of manual work. And what you can see for conclusion is that widgets, John illustrates that digital transformation is not merely about adopting new technologies. It's not really about merely adopting new technologies. It's about a fundamental shift in how business operates. It's very, very important. It's not about installing new systems and all that. No, it should affect it should fundamentally affect how business operates, how business make decisions, and how they interact with customers and employees. So by addressing really, if you look at by addressing the problems, you know, with a strategic way, because one thing is to address a problem, another thing is to do that strategically by implementing all the systems they implemented, the ERP platforms, the CRM, the BI tools. The company was able to move from a state of operational inefficiency and of course decline in competitiveness, to a more streamlined, successful, and customer facing or customer focused industry. And really this is what digital transformation is all about. If you don't go home with anything, just have this widget story at the back of your mind on how digital transformation actually improves and affects how you can transform a business and transform its operations. But in explaining, you can see that there were a lot of tools that were introduced and systems that were put in place to manage some of these efficiencies. And that's really why we're here to look at some of those tools and some of those systems that were put in place and how that really affected and how improved their processes. Yep, I think we have very few years. So now I wish we had time for lessons learned, but like I said, you can share the chat, but I want you to brainstorm on what you have just seen or heard and really think about it deeply, even after the course. And if you and you can use that as a case study to your current place of work. You should start thinking now about processes that needs to be improved, processes that take time, that are slow, that cost a lot of money, that is not customer facing or so one of your take home from this session is to go back. If you're working, go back to your companies, go back to your churches, your organizations, and really really think about digital transformation and how. So if you see things not working around your environment, then you have learned something today about identifying what those things are and identifying the tools you need to actually improve on those processes. Even if, I mean, as much as, it could be an automated system that is there, but even systems need to be improved. Really, I've seen systems that actually made the work a little bit more difficult for people. I've seen systems that were not strategically, set up, so they created more problems. So it's not just about business process. We can even transform systems we already have in place. So I hope you go back and think about this and apply it to your current place of work, and also start thinking about how you can develop yourself to really be one of those who have helped widgets solve their problems. Because for you to bring in these systems, ERP system, there were consultants who set up the system. There are people who did a lot of work to get widgets to where they are. So I've just rushed